All right, guys, we wanted to film an episode about a new mobile application that's coming out called David's Disposable. I personally don't know a ton about this company. I remember the first mobile application that came out. I think it was just called Disposable, right? And it was
Yeah,
just like a digital disposable camera.
yeah. I think that one was called David's Disposable. They dropped it and they've changed the name to
Dispo.
Dispo
You're
now.
right.
Yeah, and
So
so yeah,
we need to do a little episode so you can educate everyone on Dispo. I know I have a ton of questions, so I just kind of wanted to jump into it. So would love if you could give everyone a background on like what Dispo currently is, because I know you've had access or you did have access to the beta, so you've seen everything along the way.
yeah. Well, by the way, this is a perfect thing for us to cover, just given that we talked so much about creator run businesses and creators starting their own businesses or building things around their own brand and likeness. And David started his disposable, I forget what the name of his actual Instagram handle is, but that was like his real disposable. He was taking photos with his disposable camera, and that Instagram account has taken off to a crazy level. That was, from my understanding, the inspiration for the first version of this product. They completely took. I don't even know if that product's on the App Store anymore, and they've ended up raising venture money for it and putting a real like big engineering team and design team around this to launch it as a new social product. And I've been on the beta for a little bit now, and I've been pretty blown away, honestly. I think by the time people watch this, it will be live and they'll be able to play with it as well. But on the off chance that they aren't, like, this is hopefully a good like tutorial or understanding of what the product is. So at a high level, it opens up to you just a screen of basically a disposable camera, and it's a very tiny window like that actually shows what you're taking, and that's intentional. Like instead of we're used to our camera app where it's just like the entire screen of the camera page is showing all of everything that you're going to be recording and taking a picture of, whereas this is like a very tiny, like this size, like view of what you're actually taking a photo of. So it's just enough to be like, okay, I think that's what I'm taking a photo of. Like, I think I'm taking a picture of my wall, or I think I'm taking a picture of you, but I don't actually know. And so what ends up happening is you take that photo, and within, I believe it's 24 hours technically after the photo you're taking, or it's 9 a.m. the next day, one of the two, it actually then is developing. You don't get to see the photo that you took until the next day. Very similar, to a disposable, like a real life disposable camera. The thing that, like that piece alone is interesting because like there is a real hook here where before we're all sort of in this moment of, okay, let's take our photos, take our selfies, and look at all of them like 20 different times. This completely flips that on its head and is like, you sort of just live in the moment, take the photo, and you hope that it's good because you don't really know. And they apply like a nice, almost film filter as well to the photo. So every photo that is processed or developed through Dispo has like a very unique style, and it's pretty magical when you sort of wake up and look at that photo the next day.
So you don't know if the photo is actually turning out like you had hoped it turns out. Like, have you had any photos that actually like turn out blurry 24 hours later and just weren't in
I
focus?
haven't had any turn out blurry, but it's been like, whoa, that looks different than I remember that photo being. Like, like in the moment you're like, okay, I just sort of took a selfie, or I just like took a picture of something random, and you're like, either they applied some amazing filters and that looks way better than I remember, or it's like, what happened? Like, I don't remember even taking it like that. And so I imagine, post COVID, or when I'm hanging out with a bunch of friends, it can be really fun. Or like, imagine, we're hanging out and we take a bunch of photos, and the next day we're all looking and we're like, whoa, I don't even remember taking all these photos with each other. Or like very reminiscent, or like similar to when you used to have a disposable camera and you like will look through all of them together. And so that's the other piece that they've added in this new product is they have these things called roles, which are there's public roles and there's private roles, which are essentially, in my mind, act very similar to the equivalent of like stories, or like, I don't know, use shared stories where like, maybe you have close friends and then you have public stories on Instagram and things like that. But what happens here is you can have specific things, like there might be a specific category or role that's public. Maybe it's just like cars, and like everyone who takes pictures of cars will just post into that role. And when the photos are developed the next day, you can just like look in that role and you'll see all these new photos. And in a weird way, it's sort of like there's interest-based ones. There's some that are like that have popped up on the beta of like I don't know, just like selfies, and you have like literally like 1,000 selfies of people like posting their selfies. And but then you also have like where I think it gets more magical is when you have your friends of like me and you and maybe a couple other people, and we're just like taking photos and saying, hey, when they're developed, go into this shared role and everyone can see those photos. Like that's a very cool experience, and really sets up what I was talking about earlier, where like if we were all hanging out that night and we were like, let's just timestamp it as like, here's the role of like when we hang out, and like now we have this role forever of all of the disposable photos that we took that night.
Got it. So are people meant to then post these on Instagram, or are they meant to stay on Dispo?
Yeah, completely stay within this ecosystem. Like
Okay.
you can save the photo and take it off if you want to, but like it is really, they're building it as a social app. Like you can tell that they're building this with the aspirations to take on a Snapchat or an Instagram as a place where you're taking your photos primarily.
Got it. And so the monetization method is basically through advertising, at least initially.
Yeah, I imagine there will be some level of advertising across the board on this, and maybe there's a sponsored role, right? Like maybe it's like GM pays someone if you post photos of a car or something like that. Like who knows what that actually looks like? But I think like most social apps, it sort of starts early on of let's just get as many users as we possibly can to be engaging and posting, and then from there we'll figure out where it goes, and we'll figure out monetization after that.
I think the interesting part to look at is like, what's David's involvement going to be over the next like 6 to 12 months as they launch, and then is there continual promotion? Like he doesn't upload on his YouTube channel anymore. Is he promoting it on each podcast? Like was that, I mean, I know you looked at this as an investor. Was that talked about in the deck of like, what is David's involvement?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely like explicit that he is a co-founder of this business, and I forget his formal title, as a part of the executive team, but he's definitely on the executive team, and he is, he is going to be involved in promoting this. I imagine when they launch next week, we're recording this a week early, it will end up, he will be promoting it pretty heavily. I think there's a couple questions of like, okay, does he continue to promote it? Does he continue to post on here? He's actually been fairly active as a poster during the beta. Like you can go and look at his profile and follow him, and it's been pretty interesting to just see him and Natalie and Zane and Heath and these people all continue to post. And I think those pieces are really cool. And obviously, like David's friend group is one that people really want to follow. So I think from even that element alone of like being able to see what they're doing and getting access to these photos that they might not ever have. Like in some ways, I feel like this is similar to, like Finstas or like fake Instagrams, or like, like how a lot of creators might have a bunch of different side ones where they're posting more for their friends or more authentic and raw photos. Like I think that's where this sort of thrives. And, the photos that you're seeing are definitely way more different than what you would see like David post on his Instagram. Like Instagram in my mind is like the most curated photos of all time, whereas this is just like him having fun, really random, not it's really raw and genuine. And Snapchat has its own place where it's very clearly like I think more stories for these creators, where it's just like, okay, short burst lives for 20 minutes or like 24 hours, whereas these photos live, forever until you delete them if you want them to once they're developed. And so I do think he will be involved. I think it's, how much does he push it, and is he going to continue to be really involved over time? Those will be really, really interesting things to watch.
Yeah, it's also like interesting for him, like, and these are with a lot of creator businesses, is like, how do you incentivize your friends and like your core group to get involved? I'd imagine the Vlog Squad, they're on the cap table in some way.
Yeah,
to incentivize
I believe
them
that they have all invested or they have equity in some capacity, and so they're definitely aligned, and I think it will be it's going to be really interesting to see how they roll out the launch. And I imagine we might actually do another video after they launch of just like breaking down either like a masterclass or like what went wrong in the launch there. Because I think my assumption is that David and their team are working really hard on how to do this right. And I suspect it to be a sort of a masterclass in how you launch something similar to how, Mr. Beast launched Mr. Beast Burger and so like flawlessly. I think we will see something happen here already. And by the way, like the app is live in some countries right now, and it's like already jumping right up on the App Store without David even formally promoting it yet, just pure hype. And the beta filled like basically immediately, and that was no promotion from David as well. So there's definitely a lot of hype around this product already, and I'm curious to see where it goes from here.
I mean, I'll make a guess. Like, it's going to be the #1 app for at least a week straight. I mean, Mr. Beast Burger was #1 for 3 days. Like, I can't remember what finger on the app was #1 at. Like, David, Jimmy, like, there's like 5 creators who can kind of just command whatever they want at this point. And it's like now they need to build compelling products. They need to build a good management team. They need to have a good marketing strategy. Like that's where all this goes, because they raised 10 million at 100. I think it just got leaked that they raised 20 million at a 200. So they've raised a large amount of capital. Now I would imagine a lot of that's going into marketing, team. So it'll be interesting to see what this company.
Yeah, he's put together a really good team so far, and so I'm curious to see where it goes from here, because there's. I mean, look, the sky's the limit, right? Like, and we've seen social apps break out, especially during this time right now. Like, it's a lot of people are saying like social is back, and we're seeing these consumer social apps pop, like Clubhouse and TikTok. And it was before COVID, but still broke through and it's completely taken over. I think if it was going to happen and if it was going to break out, this is like some really good timing for them. And they've been moving really quick, and so I'm curious to see just how it plays out. And there's clearly a lot of hype. There's clearly a lot of people that are looking to play with it. I'm excited to dive into it more. Like, I am not a avid Snapchat user or an Instagram user, so I'm probably not the core demo of someone who would be using this. But I still there's some real features and product decisions that they've made that I'm very intrigued by, and I think a lot of people, especially younger generation, will appreciate.
Yeah, I think this is the first example we've seen of a creator-led business raising actual venture dollars, right?
Yes.
In the software space as well. I've said this for the past 2 years. The next billion-dollar businesses will come from the creator economy, and they'll come from specific creators. This could be one of the first ones that hit that like billion-dollar valuation in the next 12 to 18 months. We shall see.
Yeah, I mean, it could hit it sooner, right? Like, if this takes off within, the next 3 months, you could see it really jump. And look, there's a world where if we squint and we look far enough out and we're like, we look at this and view the upside or the successful version of this, David has the potential to be, like the next Evan Spiegel or Mark Zuckerberg, right? Like, this could be really, really big. Like, social products that break out today are not small businesses. Like, those are not just singular billion-dollar businesses. Like, those are 10 to 20 to $50 billion businesses. And if you look at the Facebooks of the world, those are truly, truly massive. And so there is some really unprecedented territory here. I think it's a really unique opportunity for David to leverage his distribution. It's very endemic to his brand, like just purely off of his early days of doing the Instagram disposable account. I'm really excited to see where it goes, because in the upside scenario, this could really be like a multi-billion-dollar company for David, and it'd be a massive win for the entire creator ecosystem.
Yeah, sure. It won't be the last video we make on this. The app comes out very, very quickly. Like Blake said, we're filming this on February 26th. So we'll see.
I think they just announced it comes out on March 1st. So I imagine whenever you're watching this, it will be live, and I'm excited to get everyone's thoughts.
Awesome. Well, thanks guys. Thanks for watching this video.